physically and interact with our children, but then maybe some other time. And students, for you, it's a golden opportunity to understand about how the climate changes. We say, बहुत गर्मी है, बहुत सर्दी है. This year it didn't rain well, or it over-rained. The temperature shot up to 50 degree, 48 degree, 46 degree, or it was very cold. These are the general conversations we have every year, be it be winters, be it be summers, or any time of the year. So I think the resource person we have here is the most ideal person to kind of answer your queries or to tell you that how these variations come in, and how these days the climate is good, pleasant. So we are fortunate to have him amongst us because he is the person on TV which we... So again, a warm welcome to you, sir, and we are fortunate to have you amongst us to guide us that climate actually matters. Thank you so much. Over to you, Arman.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Arman Mathur. I am a student of class 12. I will be moderating the question and answer session for today. But before that, we have what is sure to be a very, very educational presentation from our honorable chief guest, Mr. Anand Sharma. Mr. Anand Sharma is working as Additional Director General of the Indian Meteorological Department in New Delhi. He has worked as DDGM at the Regional Meteorological Center in New Delhi. He's the founder director of the Meteorological Center in Dehradun from 2002 to 2015. He's received his MPhil degree in Environmental Sciences from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and his MSc degree in Agricultural Meteorology from PAU, Ludhiana, and his BSc Honours from the University of Delhi. Now, Mr. Anand Sharma is the recipient of the National Scholarship, the GATE Fellowship, and the UNDP WMO Fellowship. His main areas of interest are weather prediction, crop weather simulation, agro advisories, mountain meteorology, early warning of extreme weather systems and disaster management, and environmental awareness. He has built credibility about weather forecasts and popularized meteorology among the masses, and predicted the Kedarnath heavy rainfall event of June 2013. He's featured in documentary films on prestigious international channels like National Geographic and Discovery. We warmly welcome you, sir. So I think without further ado, we can move on to sir, and sir, you can begin with your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you to the principal ma'am and the vice principal ma'am and to Aman for this nice introduction. And my sincere apologies. I think there was a bit of a problem in my internet connection. Now it's okay. So let us begin. So as all of you know, weather and climate impacts almost every aspect of our life, and I'll begin with the difference between weather and climate. Like all of you know, weather is the instant state of atmosphere with respect to temperature, pressure, humidity, etc. And it is instant, as the name suggests, while climate is the sum total of weather over a period of time. And so this is a general definition, but then many people get it difficult to understand what exactly it means. So if I simplify it, weather is like your watch. You see the second needle, it keeps on changing. So weather is like watch, it keeps on changing. It's just like your mood, which also changes. आप कभी खुश होते हैं, कभी गुस्से में होते हैं, कभी sad होते हैं. So weather is like your mood. While climate is sum total of weather over a period of time, it's just like your calendar. Weather is like your watch, climate is like your calendar, where you have January, February as a season, March, April, May, hot weather season, June, July, August, September as monsoon, southwest monsoon season, and then post-monsoon season. So it's climate is calendar. And you can also say like weather is your mood, climate is your personality. So this is how you can understand weather and climate. And another issue is about weather is that if you don't like the weather of a place, wait, it will change. Like you said, morning it is quite pleasant. Then as the day progresses, temperature increases and it's very hot. Again, evenings becomes cooler. So it keeps on changing. Okay, fine. Now, let us come to the climate part. As I said, climate is sum total of weather over a period of time. It's an average. And always remember, like we say that how is the weather today? But we never say how is the climate today, right? But similarly, if we talk about Delhi में winter में कैसा weather होता है? Weather नहीं. How is the climate of Delhi in winter? So it is a sum total. Now there are two issues here. One is the climate, and other climate change, and other is climate variability. So these two issues are many people confused about these two issues. But before this, I'll like to talk about the factors which affect our climate of a particular place. So there, as you must have read in your geography class, different factors are there which affect the climate of a place. One is very important, is latitude of a place. You must be knowing all about the latitudes. Latitudes are your parallel lines starting from 0 to 90. And as you move from equator towards the pole, your temperature goes on decreasing. Why it happens? Because sun is overhead at the equator most of the time. As you must be knowing, although sun is fixed, but we generally try to say, it changes its position, but no. So most of the time, the sun is overhead only between 23° north and 23 and a half degrees south. That's called Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. These are two latitudes. Sun remains overhead only on the between these two latitudes. And the latitudes which are outside this, sun never gets direct light. That means sun is never overhead. So those areas get the slanted. That means sun rays have to travel a longer distance. So by the time the sun rays travel a longer distance, most of its energy is lost. That is why the temperature at the poles is lower, and while its temperature at the equators are more. So this is one very important aspect, latitude, which affects the climate of a particular place. And second thing is your altitude, your height. As you move from surface upwards, temperature decreases. I'll ask again students later on question why it decreases. So temperature decreases, and so altitude is one important. That is why you go to the hill stations where the temperatures are lower and pleasant in the summer season. So after latitude, there's altitude. And then third very important factor is again your nearness to the sea. The locations which are near to the sea have very equable kind of climate, while the locations which are in the interior, they have the extreme kind of climate. Why it happens? Because water has a high specific heat, and that because of that you have a more moderate type of climate near the oceans. And fourth factor is your pressure and winds. Winds, of course, you know that if the winds are coming from ocean, they will bring moisture, and winds which are coming from the Himalayas, they will bring cool winds, will bring the temperature down, while the winds which are coming from the west, that is Rajasthan, desert areas, they will lead to increase in temperature. So that's another important factor. Apart from this, we have relief. Relief is again, we say orography. You must have seen Western Ghats. So winds which are coming from the oceans, and when they strike perpendicular to the Western Ghats, the areas in the windward side get lots of rain, while the areas which are to the leeward side of the mountains, they get less rainfall. We call them rain shadow areas. So that is why you must have seen Mahabaleshwar, which is on the windward side of the Western Ghats, get something like 500 centimeters around or more rain in a year, while Pune, which is just on the leeward side, about maybe 75 to 100 kilometers from the Western Ghats, gets hardly 50 centimeters. So just see the drop in the rainfall amount as we move from the west to east across the Western Ghats. So this is called relief, how orographic features affect the rainfall of a particular area. The next important is ocean currents. Ocean currents are also very, very important, but I am not going to discuss all of them here. But you must all be knowing Gulf ocean current is very important, especially it brings lots of heat to the Europe and regulates its temperature. Otherwise, the temperature would have been much, much lower, and it would have been extreme cold out there. So these are the important factors which affect the climate of a particular place. Apart from that, there are also anthropogenic factors, which we'll talk later on, how human influences are impacting the climate. Before that, again, I will add to certain basic aspects. You must all be knowing all the weather and climate of this planet is impacted by the or affected by the solar radiation. As you must know, the sun is the major source of energy on this planet. We are very lucky. Nature has given us a free nuclear reactor, which has nuclear reactions going on inside it, which we call the nuclear fusion. In difference to the nuclear bomb, where there is a nuclear fission, here there is a nuclear fusion. That means hydrogen atoms, they combine together to form helium. So, and lots of energy is released. That energy reaches us in the form of radiation, which we also call insolation, incoming solar radiation. And it has two components, short wave radiation and long wave radiation. So you must understand these two aspects, because it's very important to understand the climate change aspects. So we have short wave and long wave. The Earth mainly, sun mainly radiates in the short wave. Why? Because a body which is at a higher temperature wavelength of emission is inversely proportional to the surface temperature. Surface temperature of the sun is something like 6,000 degree Kelvins. So it mainly radiates in short waves. While Earth also radiates, but Earth, which we call as terrestrial radiation. Sun radiation is a solar radiation, and the radiation which is reflected back by the sun is called terrestrial radiation. Because the surface temperature of the Earth is something like about 300 degrees Kelvin, so we call that radiation long wave radiation. So radiation which is reflected by the sun Earth is your long wave radiation in comparison to mainly radiation which is coming from the short wave radiation. This we need to understand. And this radiation impacts your temperature. As I said, when it's overhead, over the equator, a lot of heating takes place and the temperature rises. So solar radiation is impacting the temperature of a place, and temperature influences the pressure. Naturally, the place which gets heated up becomes, warm air is lighter than the cold air. So warm air being lighter, it rises up, leaving a sort of vacuum down below, which creates low pressure. So you see, radiation is impacting the temperature is impacting the pressure. And when the low pressure happens, what happens? Wind from high pressure area move towards low pressure. Radiation influencing temperature, temperature influencing pressure, pressure influencing winds. And then winds decide whether if they're coming from the ocean, they will bring moisture and that can lead to rain. And if they're coming from the deserts, they may bring heat along with it. If they're from the mountains, they will bring cool weather. So this is how you see, sun is playing such a major role in controlling the weather and climate of this planet. That is why even our logo of India Meteorological Department is Adityat Jayate Vrishti. That means sun only generates the rain. And it's very, very true. To generate rain, you need solar radiation, which warms the Earth's surface, creates low pressure. Wind starts moving from the ocean, they bring moisture, and this moisture again rises up, leads to cloud formation and rain. That's how Adityat Jayate Vrishti is there. Okay. Now coming to, after understanding these certain basic aspects, let us move on. And as I said earlier, there is hardly any aspect of life where climate doesn't. And then it has beneficial effects and it has negative impacts as well as aspects. And people are discussing these days about issues of climate change and its impacts. They're saying that climate is changing rapidly because of anthropogenic activities. That means the kind of industrialization, transport, or construction, whatever activities human beings are doing, it is generating more and more greenhouse gases, so-called greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases, when I say, it means basically these are certain gases. What they do is that when they're in the atmosphere, they do not allow the terrestrial radiation, that means radiation which is reflected by the Earth, which is a long wave radiation, it has a lot of heat component. Normally when these gases are not there, this radiation goes back. But when there are a lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, they get trapped. So we call it greenhouse effect. Similar to the, you must have seen glass houses, or where you grow the vegetation, it is mainly consists of glasses. The property of the glass is like this: when the shortwave radiation from the sun enters the glass, it interacts with the interiors and gets converted into long wave radiation. And long wave radiation cannot come out of the glass. So it is trapped inside, the temperature increases. You all must have observed when you park your car outside in a hot, day. So what do you see when you enter into it? Is very, very hot. The reason is that short wave radiation from the sun has entered into it, and after interacting it, it becomes long wave radiation, and then it cannot come out. So temperature increases. So this is the same kind of analogy. Scientists are saying that because of trapping of outgoing long wave radiation of the earth by these so-called greenhouse gases, temperature of the globe or earth is increasing, which we call as global warming. And we all know that about around 1 degree increase in temperature over past 100 years all over the globe. And we, other parts of the globe, even India also, we are having similar kind of impacts. Our data shows that. Okay. Now, people are saying because of this warming, we are seeing all this extreme weather, extreme snowfall, rainfall, flooding, sea level rise, melting of glaciers. You name the thing, everything is being linked to the climate change. But what is happening, what I'm trying to say is that, it's very easy to blame everything on climate change, but it's not so true. We have another terminology called climate variability. Many people do not understand about climate variability. Climate variability is, natural climate variability. Climate is not something which is fixed. It changes. It has changed in the past. It is changing now. It will change in the future as well. So climate variability, when we define it, is like this. Suppose if I have 150 years of data of, say, of Delhi or Kolkata or Chennai or Mumbai, and if I see that 150 years data, then I'll see there will be peaks, there will be down, everything. So very lot of variability is captured. So all those events which are happening now have happened in the past as well. So how will you say now if something is happening, it is climate change? No, if it is climate change, then what will you call the flooding which happened in the Chennai or Kerala 100 years ago? That time the greenhouse gases were very, very in low quantities. So it is very important to understand natural climate variability. So year to year changes which we observe from our past data, those are climate variabilities. And climate change is something, which has happened because of human or anthropogenic impacts. So I will give here an example to differentiate between two. Say, for example, Delhi, if you see the temperature, maybe the highest temperature is touching somewhere around 48 or 49. In the past, about 50 years or so ago, it has happened. And now also it happens. So when it happens now, people say it is climate change. But no, it has happened in the past also. Similarly, we have very less amount of rainfall happening in the month of August. But this time, as a country as a whole, you see 44 years record has been broken. So somebody might say, oh, August में बहुत ज़्यादा बारिश हो रही है, it may be an example of climate change. No, it has happened in the past. 1926, we had all-time record August rainfall over the country. So if we have the past data, then we can differentiate whether it is natural climate variability or it is a climate change. So let us not jump to the conclusion when people are saying, जो भी कुछ हो रहा है, जितना भी, or doomsday scenario, the kind of things are painted, take it everything with a pinch of globally warmed salt. So please take everything with a pinch of globally warmed salt. Do not jump to the conclusion when somebody tells you in the newspaper or through television कि ये तो बस प्रलय होने वाली है, सब कुछ डूब जाएगा, सब कुछ बर्बाद हो जाएगा. ये सब लोग डरा रहे हैं सबको, डरने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. Yes, things do change, weather and climate do change. There are changes, it has changed in the past. हम लोगों ने पूरा worst type of climate देखे, पहले भी flooding भी हुई है, सूखा भी पड़ा है, and you must be knowing even at the time when Akbar was the king, I think he shifted his capital because of water issues. We had major famines when the British days, drought used to be there, famine used to be there. But then remember when, earlier about 500 years or 700 years ago, whenever we had drought or that kind of condition, people never used to die in lakhs. But it is only when the Britishers came because of their wrong policies, drought led to famines. So all of you can read those kind of things, how those, they created kind of situation where famines happened because of wrong policies. So we had the worst of the droughts, we had the worst of the famines, but that kind of conditions are not seen these days. So what will you say? So it's very, very important. People jump to the conclusion sometimes without seeing the data. They say, you know, there will be epidemics, major epidemics of plant diseases. But for the 30, 40 years, there are not a major epidemic in the agricultural field. But yes, I'm not saying that in future it will not happen. If somebody tries to do a biological warfare, it can happen. So biological warfare is again a very important issue. I mean, we have to be very, very careful if anything happening, whether it has a natural linkages or if somebody is involved in that. Similarly, people are saying agriculture production is going to decrease. Because of climate change, our crops are getting affected, but हमारा तो production बढ़ता ही जा रहा है. Every year you see our facts, our agriculture production is increasing. So if there is a more extreme weather and all kinds of unfavorable weather, then why our production is increasing? Our agricultural land is not increasing. So this is again very, very important. It could be better management. It could be better weather forecasting, better early warnings. So this is another issue. People are talking about ocean sea level rise. Okay, maybe there, but is it mainly sea level rise or land is sinking? There are many coastal belts all over the world because a lot of people are withdrawing the gas, oil and water. So because of that, land is sinking. So people need to understand, is it sinking of land, subsidence of land, or is it sea level rise? So there are many, many issues. Many glaciers are there. People are saying they're melting. Yes, glacier is there, it has to melt. But then there are years when you get lots of snowfall. It is compensated, of course. And when you have less snowfall, naturally more melting can take place. At the same time, a lot of pollution is happening, a lot of air traffic, a lot of vehicular traffic. So black carbon is going and settling over the ice. So when black carbon settles on the ice, it absorbs more of radiation and it leads to more of melting. So it could be some other reasons as well. So aerosols are playing a major role. It's not just the global warming which is influencing the climate. There are n number of factors. We need to understand all those factors. Once we can understand all those factors, we will be in a better position to adjust or I should say mitigate some of the things. But definitely, yes, we are a society of wasters. We are an inefficient society. We are creating more and more pollutants. We are getting sort of, you know, like if you see using more vehicles, more ACs, our lifestyle is such that we are creating conditions unfavorable on this planet. So we have to be careful. And, you know, there are many things to discuss, but I think I'll stop here and I'll take more questions, which will make it more lively and interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed very interesting. Actually, what I personally found very interesting was the analogy which you started with, which was basically you compared weather to a watch and you compared climate to a calendar. So, you know, these are the sort of abstract analogies which are so simple and you don't see them superficially. You have to think about it and you have to come up with. So that's something I found very interesting. And then you went on to distinguish between climate and weather, and you know, talking about the factors which affect both of them. You know, latitude, altitude, the moderating influence of the sea, relief, and the windward-leeward divide. And you know, you've talked about ocean currents and solar radiation. And when you spoke of solar radiation, you said something very interesting, which is you called the sun a free nuclear reactor, the nuclear fission and fusion and that the whole thing which you sort of elucidated upon. So, you know, these analogies are something which I feel most of our students would find, you know, very interesting. And then you moved on to the anthropogenic effect of, you know, the anthropogenic activities which contributed to climate change, the greenhouse effect. And then I feel when the next transition, you know, to that topic where you distinguish between climate change and climate variability. I think that was sort of the ethos of the entire presentation, at least for me. You know, you talked about the fact that climate change is being used as a very a convenient sort of a face, and climate variability is something which people are ignoring. and we need to know more about the fact that climate variability happened. And you've given historical context. You've talked about Akbar and the fact that he had to change his capital because there was a problem about the water. And you've talked about the British and the famines and the famines and the droughts. And it's very interesting because when we study geography as students, we don't really pay a lot of attention to the historical context because we just study it as something which is, you study about the weather, the climate, and that's it. You stop. So I think we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond the semantics, beyond what we see superficially. Once we go into the depth of the subject is when we'll start realizing these things. And when we'll and I think that's very, very interesting. And uh, I think just to sum up your one little phrase of yours which you used, which was very, very super duper interesting for me. Take this whole propaganda about climate change with a pinch of globally warmed salt, which is which is a very, very beautiful analogy. So I think I'll just stop blabbering on now, and I know a lot of our students have a lot of questions. You've piqued their curiosity, so I think we'll just start directly with the questions. And the first question, sir, comes from Punya of class 9.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, sir, while reading about your works, I got to know that you carried out a research on the ecology of the tribal ecosystem of Bastar in Chhattisgarh. So, I
Yes.
would like to know what it was exactly about and what did you find out from the research?
Fantastic. Good. See, actually, I was doing my PhD research work in Bastar, and it was, it's one of the largest district of India, maybe even bigger than Kerala. And lots of tribals stay there. And my topic was ecology of tribal agro ecosystem of Bastar. As I would say, ecology of tribal agro ecosystem. The tribals mainly, they do cultivate the crops, but major they're hunter-gathering society. They go into the forest, they know where a particular kind of roots or stems are underground, they know how to locate it. And then best thing about them is that if they find a source of, say, tubers, so he or she will not dig the entire tuber stock. They'll take out a small aspect and leave it for the nature to replicate or increase. But if somebody from the sea goes there, he will immediately bring a truck and uproot the entire thing and spoil the entire ecology of the area. Okay, that is one example. Second thing is because they are staying close to the nature, they are very good in observation. So they know many, many aspects of the environment which we are not aware. So there are there are very positive points in their kind of agro-ecosystem which they are working, which we do not know. And those practices which they follow, some of the practices are very sustainable. That means that for the last 1,000 years, they have been doing those practices, and another 1,000 years, they will continue. But the kind of practices we are doing in modern agriculture, those are not sustainable. When we say sustainability, there are two things: ecological sustainability and ecology and economic sustainability. So, if you see ecological type of thing or economic, both ways, if you see in a modern agriculture, if you invest 1 unit of energy, 20 units of energy, 1 unit of energy is the output. But in labor intensive traditional agriculture, if you invest 1 unit of energy, output is 20. So you see, first thing here, they are not using fossil fuel. It's all their hand labor. So they are more efficient, non-polluting, and sustainable. While modern agriculture is highly energy intensive and at the same time highly polluting and is not sustainable. You must have seen more fertilizers, more chemicals, more diesel, petrol being used. It is polluting the environment. Your food is polluted. As you know, you move along the food chain. What happens? It gets biomagnification. So that is why, at the lower level food chain, the less chemicals. When you eat a non-veg food, it has all accumulated DDT and other kinds of pollutants. So it affects your health. But over there, these things are not there. Another issue, very important thing, is microclimate. Microclimate is like climate of a small place, like microclimate inside your house, your room, maybe, which you can regulate by putting AC if it is hot, or if it is hot AC, and if it's cool, you can heat it. So you can change the microclimate. Similarly, you can change the microclimate of your field, agricultural field. So these people know many practices by which they change the microclimate of their crop field by either planting trees, which due to evapotranspiration leads to cooling, shade, all those kind of things, or stone wall reflecting the light. There are many things. So microclimate. So I was mainly interested in how these traditional communities modify the microclimate and make it suitable for increasing production. So that was the main aspect. But of course, I didn't finish that because it was tough to stay there. I was getting jaundice, I was getting malaria, and there was no one to talk to. 2 years, I was staying in thick jungles. I never knew their language. Only thing I was just observing them when they used to go to the forest or the fields. And that's how I was learning things. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So one very interesting aspect which comes out from what you've talked about your work in Bastar is that these people, the local people who are at the grassroots level, they have evolved various sustainable practices which we, even with our modern technology, sometimes do not adhere to, and our practices, as you've pointed out, aren't very often aren't sustainable. So, sir, as a student of humanities, we read about these movements, the environmental movements, and we read about things like the Narmada Bachao Andolan, which has basically questioned the entire process of how developmental projects are structured, large-scale developmental projects are structured. And one very sort of important facet which was raised in that movement was about the fact that these local people should be given a say in how their environment, their surrounding, and their environment is sort of molded and changed according to the economic needs of the country. So, sir, as a corollary question, so I mean, this is just something which came to my mind. Do you think there are certain ways with which we can involve these people into the decision-making process regarding these large-scale developmental projects?
Definitely, yes, because they are the people who stay in that kind of environment and they know that environment in and out. But the people sitting in the metro cities, AC environment, they don't understand. So it's always better to have the locals of that particular area. They know if a particular river is there, what is its watershed, how that watershed is getting affected. Everything they know about those things. That's why even whenever there's a disaster also, the first, you should involve the local people. They will be able to tell you where is the water source, where is the food available, everything. So locals should always be involved. And in fact, nowadays we are also trying to be vocal for the local. Our Prime Minister Modi ji is also saying, and I always say, be a locavore. I'm moving, be a locavore. Locavore means eat local products. Because you don't know your kiwi is coming from Australia, your apple is coming from USA, your food is traveling more than you. One. Second thing is, when you move the food, you have to burn the fossil fuel to bring it here. That's adding to pollution. And it adds to the cost. And thirdly, you do not know what kind of fertilizers were used there. There are cases when doctors have linked diseases that somebody was consuming some kind of non-vegetarian food from particular area where they were using certain kind of chemicals which led to increase, or some kind of chemicals which affected the thyroid gland, so led to thyroidism. So there are many things. So if you know the local area, your local product, you know what is the source, what kind of chemicals are being used, or whether it's organic. So always stress on local food. Be a locavore and don't be a society of wastrels. We are a society of wastrels. We waste lots of things. We should not do it. So again, coming back, yes, local people should be involved in the planning and all kind of development processes. If we involve the locals, definitely it will add value.
Well, we've learned a new term today, be a locavore. That is, I think, something which all of us will remember. So, so next up, we have a question from Vaishnavi of class 9.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
In one of your interviews, you mentioned that in order to issue an impact-based weather forecast or actionable weather forecast, one has to have multidisciplinary knowledge and exposure. So can you please tell us what these various fields are and what these various fields are that one must excel in order to make an impactful prediction?
Sure, very good question. Yes. See, as you know, environment is, our atmosphere, we say there are no boundaries, right? No boundaries. And any environmental issue, if you talk about it, you want to find a solution about it. It's not just one. Like earlier, we used to think, if we have to predict weather, we should have observation of the atmosphere. Of course, we tried then, but we were not very accurate. But then we decided, no, atmosphere and ocean are interconnected through El Nino. So we started collecting observations of ocean. Then we said slight improvement. Then we said, no, there's something else also, which is there is atmosphere, there is hydrosphere, there's another sphere, lithosphere, soil. So we included that. Then we said biosphere, vegetation, evapotranspiration. And then we realized another issue, cryosphere, ice, poles, and Himalayas. So all these 5 spheres, we need to have observation to predict better weather. That is one aspect. Now coming to impact-based forecast. Suppose if I am basically a weatherman, who issues weather forecasts and warnings. And I'm saying, I'm in the mountains and I'm expecting heavy rains in the next 5 days. Now I have a knowledge about geology. I've studied geology. I have studied forestry. So I know about the forests. I have a knowledge about agriculture, what kind of agricultural practices are going on, right? I have read about soils. I know about the type of soil, whether it's dry or it is moist. So with this kind of background, what I will do, I know that for the last 15 days, there is enough rain. Now soil is saturated. I know, because you must be knowing there is 2 limits. One is called permanent wilting point, and other is where no moisture in this soil. So when it is permanent wilting point and field capacity. Field capacity means soil is saturated. That means no more water will go inside the soil now if it rains. So if it is saturated, one. Second thing, I know recently somebody has cut the forest in that particular area, or somebody has tried to make a road in the using dynamites, and I also have studied about earth sciences. So that means, suppose about few months back there was a earthquake of maybe 4.5 Richter scale. So it must have brought some cracks in the mountains. So what can I predict now with this kind of background and seeing that the soil is saturated, there are cracks in the mountain, there is land cover change, vegetation has been destroyed. Now a heavy rainfall event, what can it lead to? Can you answer this? What impact it will have?
Landslides?
Yes. So this is common sense. I'm not using rocket science. So this is how I was using. Absolutely. This is what I did. I started doing all these things. It will lead to landslide in these areas. So that is how I started predicting. Similarly, if it's a hot weather season, my current temperatures I am monitoring is about 5 degrees above normal, right? And I know in the next 5-7 days, there is no rainfall. That means temperature will further increase. And I know my particular belt where the trees are of pine trees are planted. Pine trees, their needles are very, very leathery and dry. Okay. So those dry leaves are lying over there. Their temperatures are very, very high and they're going to increase in the next few days. What can happen?
The soil will dry up, I guess.
The soil will dry up, fine. Soil is dry, needles are dry. What can happen?
Forest fires.
Forest fires, yes. This is the common sense again. So this is how I use my interdisciplinary knowledge of all these fields. And I started saying that, look, these are the areas where you have planted pines. Temperatures are very, very high and forest fire can happen. And 95% of forest fires are man-made. या तो आप पिकनिक बनाने जाते हैं, आग छोड़ देते हैं वहाँ पे, सिगरेट बीड़ी को फेंक देते हैं. That's how it starts. Or deliberately sometimes to पेड़ काट लिए हैं, चुरा लिए हैं, तो आप उसके बाद बोलेंगे आग लगा दो कि भाई जल गए. So this again issue of integrity and corruption हमारे यहाँ होता ही है. So this is how I started this impact-based forecast. Similarly, one more example I'll give you. I started the project with the schools where we are installing the automatic weather station in the schools. We're teaching the students about all these things, and we are telling them कि आप मान लीजिए 4 centimeter बारिश हुआ, there is 4 centimeter of rain in your area. So what are those areas surrounding your school which get waterlogged? So students will go to those areas and see whether drains are blocked or drains have been already encroached upon. Who is responsible for cleaning those drains? You will go to the authorities, talk to those authorities and create a pressure group. So if we do that, this is called citizen science. So we need to promote citizen science. all of you are scientists. So the only thing is you have to start observing and linking. I want all of you to become Meghdut and cloud chasers. So I'll come to your schools one of these after this things. I mean, Corona thing is down, and we will interact more and create awareness, and we'll have a pressure group, and we will make these authorities work. This is the power of science.
Very, very succinctly put, sir. And I think the question has been very comprehensively answered because you pointed out that weather prediction is something which, to do it, you have to be very holistic in your approach. You cannot be parochial, because if you look at one aspect, you have to look at the other as well. If you look at the hydrosphere, you have to look at the cryosphere as well. So we have to be holistic, well-rounded in all of our fields, and that is how we do it. And I think one another thing which you pointed out is the practical, pragmatic application of common sense, which is what has brought you forward, and which is very interesting.
I'll add here, common sense is not all that common.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Very succinctly put. So, and you summed it all up, which if we all do it as citizens, then it becomes citizen science, and we all can become scientists. So it's very, very fascinating, I feel, for all of us to listen to. Next up, sir, we have another question from Shreya Pankaj of class 10.
Very good morning, sir.
Very good morning, Shreya.
So in the past few years, we have seen some countries declaring a climate emergency. So is India in such a condition where the government needs to declare a climate emergency? And if so, then what consequences do you think India will face?
Okay, fine. Yeah. Already we had a climate emergency recently. COVID, because of COVID, everything came to a halt. No industry was working, no transport, and you have seen the results. Skies were clear, there was no pollution, river water quality improved. People started seeing Dhauladar range in Himachal from the Jalandhar, or some Saharanpur. People said we could see the peaks of Himalayas, and you could see the chirping of birds, which normally do ignore. All birds are there. So you've already seen it. Of course, yes, if you really improve, or change your lifestyle, things can definitely. But yes, as far as emergency is concerned, you can't have. Yes, it is good to have. But then you also need development. Economy must go on. You have seen the COVID, because of this, many people lost their jobs. Economy is down. So yes, we need to have alternate kind of development system, be it agriculture, be it your construction. For example, I'll give you an example. Construction activity is one of the major source of greenhouse gases and contributing to global warming and climate change. And I don't know who is giving the clearances to the kind of buildings being constructed. You go to Gurgaon, all those are glass buildings. And glass buildings, it is not a good design. Glass buildings should be constructed in the temperate environments where short wave radiation enters into the glass, leads to heating, and it makes it comfortable. But in a tropical country where already temperatures are touching 45 degrees, when you have a glass building, temperature inside increases and your AC bill increases by 25 to 30%. So if you ask me, I will hang those architects who have constructed these buildings. So wrong kind of planning is happening. I don't know where are the town planners. Gurgaon is again is a place which is not by any planner, it is by the property dealers. That's why you see frequent flooding in those areas. So this is what, there are many things we can do. So we can have an alternate development plan. So what we need is development should be such that it should prevent disasters. But what we are doing is we are creating that kind of development which is leading to disasters. विकास ऐसा हो जो हमें डिजास्टर से बचाए, विकास ऐसा ना हो जो खुद ही डिजास्टर बन जाए, आपदा बन जाए. So विकास ऐसा कर रहे हैं हम लोग, वही आपदा बन जा रहा है हमारे लिए. So yes, we need to have very strict rules. Already I think rules and regulations are there, but implementation is very poor. So I think each one of us has to start from ourselves only. You can see that कि हमें क्या गाड़ी की जरूरत है, कि हमें पैदल स्कूल जा सकते हो, 1-2 किलोमीटर है, या साइकिल से जा सकते हो. So each one have to start from that, and of course country has to, at the top level, even Prime Minister, now we have the International Solar Alliance. We are one of the best in that area, and we are moving to that. And naturally, we need to harvest more of solar energy. We have to go for more non-conventional energy sources. But many ways by which we can definitely, reduce our, what I should say, carbon footprint. We can reduce our carbon footprint, and at the same time, we can increase our handprint. That means good actions to improve our weather. But yes, climate emergency, it's a good concept, but then it is very difficult to implement as such, because there are many issues interlinked to this economy. But then, yes, each one of us need to change our lifestyle. Everybody wants a big house, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom villa, and maybe there are 2 or 3 people only in the house. You need many cars. And another important issue is coming, whether be it Amitabh Bachchan or be it some other, I don't want many people, they show that they have 30 cars, 40 cars, and people consider them heroes. They are not heroes, they are actors. It is a weatherman who is a real hero, who saves lives, who tells people, who creates an impact-based forecast. So I think it's high time people start following those so-called pseudo-heroes. They say something, they do something else. So I think what we preach, we should practice. Most of them are not doing. तो अपनी शुरुआत अपने से ही करनी होगी हमें, और यदि हम अच्छे से करते हैं, अपने लाइफस्टाइल को चेंज करते हैं, सिंपल रहते हैं, तो I think we can save environment. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
Absolutely, sir. The onus is on us as citizens. And as far as the government is concerned, a good pragmatic sense of planning and development has to go hand in hand with the economic conditions of the country. And that is how we can sort of develop a sustainable approach, sustainable outlook, and that is how we can move forward. Very interesting again. So up next, sir, we have another question from Harja Singh of class 9.
Good morning, sir. So we are seeing that technologies are expanding, and the meteorological department's accuracy of forecasting weather is also increasing day by day. So what is the meteorological department planning to do in the near future using the best advantages of the technology? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right, absolutely. I remember when about 32 years back, when I was traveling to Pune in a train, and somebody asked me, what do you do? I said, I'm a weatherman. He started laughing. Because at that time, people used to believe that, weatherman jo bhi bolta hai, wo ulta hi hota hai, and that's why people, they used to laugh. But now, if you see over the years, the entire scenario is changed. We have built trust, especially Uttarakhand. If you go ask anybody, when a chai wala to mantri to santri, everybody tells you about the accuracy of forecast. Yes, so same is the case all over India, I should say. There may be some pockets where maybe accuracy may not be as high, but yes. So how it has happened, there are 2-3 things. One is your technology, definitely. Technology has helped us. And second, you can say, long experience, that also adds to it. And thirdly, how serious you are, how passionate you are about your job. These are 2-3 things which matter. So I'll come to the technology, as you said. Technology, first thing is that earlier, when a cyclone used to form in the ocean about 1,000 kilometers, we had hardly any data, because at that time there were no satellites, there were no radars, hardly any ship passing by. All ships and airplanes, it's mandatory to have an observatory so that they can send the information to us. And if a ship is not passing from that area, we won't know what is happening. And then suddenly the cyclone will come to the coast, and there won't be any time to warn the people or to ship them, and people used to die in lakhs. If you see the past history of cyclone killing lakhs of people in Bangladesh and West Bengal. So, but now, the moment a cyclone forms about 1,000 kilometers away from the coast, we see it from the satellite, which is eye in the sky. It tells you, and as it is moving towards the coast, when it reaches about 300 kilometers, we have state-of-the-art Doppler weather radar. These radars are again an active remote sensing source. It tells us what is the structure of the cyclone, where are the deep clouds and convection happening, what kind of precipitation we are going to have. So as it moves closer and closer, radar helps us out in many of the things. Thirdly, we have numerical weather prediction. We have state-of-the-art models, not the models which move on the ramp. These are softwares which we have developed like these are the, we try to understand this atmosphere is governed by many physical equations. So those equations are converted into atmosphere, and we try to understand the behavior of the atmosphere in the form of a software. That software is loaded on a supercomputer because it requires lots of observation, billions and billions of observation. You cannot do it in an ordinary computer. So we lead all that software and observation, feed this observation to the software, and it predicts your weather. But of course, that is a raw forecast. We add value to it through our experience. Okay. Then observation network. Many areas earlier, there was not, observations were not there. We were not knowing the actual what is happening. So our network we have strengthened. But again, there is still a lot of scope to increase the network. For example, Delhi itself, now we're thinking in the near future, we will have at least one automatic weather station every 4 kilometers. So that urban flooding and those kind of things, we can issue pinpointed hyperscale maybe forecasts in coming years. So many things, as I said, radar, satellite, numerical weather prediction, observation network, experience, all these things have added in improvement of forecast. But one thing, always remember, forecast will never be 100% accurate because we are trying to imitate nature, which is very, very complex, which we have not fully understood. But yes, it is very complex. You must appreciate why we are able to give, how still we are able to give a forecast accurately and timely warnings and saving lives.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, as you said, weather predicting is not that stereotypical job. It's as you pointed out, that man was laughing at you when you told him you were a weatherman, and he certainly isn't going to be laughing after he sees this presentation and sees how much this whole this whole category of job has sort of evolved. So righto, moving on, we have Mohisha Masiwal of class 10 who wants to ask you a question.
Good morning, sir. So we see that artificial intelligence is playing an important role in different fields in the current scenario. Does it play a crucial role in the meteorological department?
Yes, very good question. Very good question. Yes, it plays, and we are also working on those aspects. I'll give you one beautiful example. Say, for example, an ambulance is carrying a heart for the transplant, and it's entering from, say, Gurgaon to Delhi, and it's raining. Okay, and now the ambulance fellow, what he will do, he has to go to, say, for example, to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he'll put this GIS on a map, and he'll follow that route. Okay, but who knows, there is heavy rain, and in between water is accumulated, and the ambulance will be stuck. So here, artificial intelligence can help us. It will immediately find out which are the many alternate routes are available, and which route is having less rainfall or it is clear. So it will direct the ambulance driver to move through that particular road and reach on time, because it's a question of life saving. So yes, artificial intelligence is a very, very important role. There are many things which it can do it, and we have already started working on that, and it is the future of weather forecasting. It will play more and more an important role.
Yes, that just shows how dynamic the whole meteorology profession is. So moving on, we have a question from Anushka Kapoor of class 10.
Good morning, sir. There are two schools of thought on climate change. One set of thinkers believe that climate change is a fabricated Western concept, while others believe that it is real. So what are your views on the same?
Okay, thank you. See, one thing we must try to analyze one is that global warming is a reality. It is happening. Temperature of the globe has increased by 1 degree. And scientists are saying this increase in global warming. And then if we have the business as usual scenario, that means if we continue to produce more and more greenhouse gases like present state, so temperature will further increase by, say, 4 to 5 degrees by the year 2100. And if that happens, then it will have all kinds of repercussions. But then I'm telling, as I said, take everything with a pinch of globally warm salt. Don't link anything happening. If there's a flooding in Gurgaon, you link it with the climate change. Don't do that. That will be wrong to do that. So it could be because of climate variability along with land use, land coverage, or unplanned growth and development. So we need to understand that But yes, if there's a fact, there's a warning, and it can influence, because ultimately, as I said, temperature influences the pressure, pressure influences the winds. So they are saying it can lead. So, but then just saying that everything happening or is because of climate change is not correct. I will say like this: when you go to buy vegetables in the market, right? As a simple example, and if you buy worth 100 rupees of vegetables, okay? I don't know whether you have ever gone to the market to buy vegetables. Okay, and then we have a very typical habit of our ladies when they purchase the vegetables from the vendor. उसके बाद खरीदने के बाद हम लोग उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Can somebody say? सब्जी खरीदने के बाद हम उन्हें क्या बोलते हैं? Can somebody answer?
So डिस्काउंट के लिए तो पहले बोलते हैं.
डिस्काउंट तो हो गया, बाद में कुछ बोलते हैं आप.
Yes, for coriander and chilies.
वेरी गुड. तो हम उसको बोलते हैं कि थोड़ा भैया धनिया मिर्च दे दीजिए. वेरी गुड. सो वो जो धनिया मिर्च कितने का, 100 रुपए की सब्जी थी, धनिया मिर्च कितने का था? 5 रुपए का होगा. तो क्लाइमेट चेंज इज 5 रुपए, क्लाइमेट वेरिएबिलिटी 100 रुपए जो है, वो सब्जी जो है 100 रुपए की, वो क्लाइमेट वेरिएबिलिटी है, और वो क्लाइमेट चेंज 5 रुपए का है. दैट मीन्स क्लाइमेट चेंज इज added pressure to the already existing climate variable. So this is what you need to understand. So don't get this thing कि भाई सारा प्रलय हो जाएगा, doomsday scenario हो जाएगा. Yes, there are issues. There were floods in the past. There were diseases. There were droughts. There were many, but we have come through that. Through our technology, through our adoption. We have to adopt new technology, and we have to move away from the vulnerable areas. But what is happening now is more and more people are moving and constructing in the vulnerable areas. हर किसी को चाहिए नदी का व्यू होना चाहिए, एक पहाड़ का व्यू होना चाहिए, एक समुद्र का व्यू होना चाहिए. And laws are there that 500 meters from the coast, construction should not be allowed, but rules are openly flouted. So if you construct more and more in the vulnerable area, there will be more damages, and more damages. Do not blame it on climate change. It is climate variability along with land use, land cover change. I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think again we've brought in the climate change and climate variability divided here. And we need to develop a balanced interpretation, put things into perspective, not take things at face value, understand why climate is changing and if whether it is change or variability. Very well put, sir. Up next, we have Ashman Mehta of class 9.
Good morning, sir. Sir, the heat is and its effect on wheat and the rise of such cases after 2015 is a matter of alarm. Can the Met Department develop early warning signals and mitigate such events?
I didn't get your question clearly. Can somebody repeat?
I'll repeat it for you, sir. The question was basically he's talked about the intense heat wave which was recently seen in England and its effect on the wheat and basically the rise of such cases after 2015. And he said that it is a matter of concern. So can the Met Department evolve strategies to mitigate such events?
He also used the crop wheat crop also?
Yes, he's talked about wheat.
Okay. See, first thing is that I think he should know heat wave is in the summer season and wheat is a winter season crop. Kharif and Rabi. The crops which are sown in the summer season when temperature is high, that's called Kharif season. And wheat is sown in the winter season. It's a crop of the winter season. So, us समय heat wave नहीं होती है. Okay. Doesn't matter. But yes, nonetheless, heat wave is always there. Okay. And heat wave, yes, we monitor that. And we also predict well in advance. And we also issue advisories. We say कि अभी हमारे temperature जो है, it's just say around normal. Okay, so no need to worry. But in coming days, the temperatures are going to increase by 4 to 5 degrees. If that happens, so you have heat wave, or temperatures might increase by 6 to 7 degrees. That means severe heat wave. So those areas we continuously monitor and we issue warning, and we also these days give impact-based warnings, giving the different colors. Now, if it's red color means you have to act. That means you should not move out between 10:30, 11 to 3:30. If you move, because that is the time when you have the high temperatures. So avoid going outside. If really you have to go, do not stay for a long period of time. Stay for a small period. Do not do any intensive work with needs lots of energy. Take a lot of liquids, be it simple water or nimbu ka pani, aam pana, lassi, chach. These are all traditional drinks, but don't drink Coca-Cola. Don't drink those kind of useless drinks. have only local products, and then cover your face, wear loose clothes. So these are the advisories we issue. And if you follow these advisories, I think we can save the lives. And another important, very important issue is remember that heat wave से लोग राजस्थान में नहीं मरते हैं, गुजरात में नहीं मरते हैं, because they are used to it, they are acclimatized. It's only places where diet is poor, your nutrition is poor, like UP, Bihar, Odisha, Andhra. These are the areas where people die of heat wave. So if you know all these aspects and you listen to the Met Department's weather and warning from time to time, definitely heat wave तो होगी, वो तो nature का part है, और थोड़ी ज़्यादा भी हो सकती है because now we have more concrete jungle. If you go to Gurgaon, पेड़ तो है नहीं, you have only concrete jungle, and everybody using ACs, वो heat भी बाहर जा रही है, concrete हो गया पूरा structure, pavements, everything is heat, so that's called urban heat island. So you have global warming, you have urban heat island, you have all these kind of things happening. So everything is contributing to heat. So heat waves can be there, and their frequency can increase, their intensity can increase. But then if we take care of proper, if you listen to the weather advices and warning and take necessary action, we can bring the casualty down.
Yes, I think the heat wave which Ashwan mentioned, if I'm not wrong, was basically in England when wheat was grown. So I think, if wheat is being grown in England and there is a heat wave.
You tell him, please, let us not this thing, every time we talk about Europe, US, let us concentrate on our area. So I always suggest people, जिस area में आप रह रहे हैं, जिस शहर में रह रहे हैं, जिस colony में रह रहे हैं, जिस school में, learn the environment of that particular area. You should know कौन सा पेड़ लगा है, कौन सा पक्षी आता है, कौन सा butterfly है वहाँ पर, कहाँ नाला है, कहाँ गलत construction हो रखी है. So know your immediate environment. और हमारा problem क्या हो गया? We are thinking global, too much global. So मैं बोलता हूँ कि think local and act local. अपने एरिया के बारे में सोचिए, immediate environment. यदि आपका स्कूल में आप इकोलॉजिकली साउंड प्रैक्टिसेस को इंप्लीमेंट कर देते हैं, उसके बाद में आसपास के एरिया को कर देते हैं, आसपास की सिटी को कर देते हैं, आई थिंक यू कैन ब्रिंग अबाउट द चेंज. बट आप यदि ग्लोबली सोचते रहेंगे तो पोलर बियर मर गया, आज वो हो गया, फ्रांस में ये हो गया, रशिया में ये हो गया, वही सोचते रहेंगे, करेंगे कुछ भी नहीं. तो दैट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प यू आउट.
Right, sir.
You should know what is happening around.
Yes, sir. Okay, so next up we have a question from Sakshi Mishra of class 11.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. So what inspired you to choose meteorology as a profession? And what was the biggest challenge you faced?
Oh, that's a very good question. Actually, I never knew about this field. My parents wanted me to become doctor. As my two elder brothers are doctors, I also tried. Thrice maybe, I failed. I couldn't pass the exam. Then I thought I should become a civil services officer. I tried that. I failed there as well. I tried one or two other jobs. I never got any job. And finally, I landed up here. So, but then I realized that it is very difficult to get a job. So once I got this job, I said, and I think it was a destiny, because I was the kind of subject I was learning from my BSc, MSc and MPhil PhD days. God has a plan that, all these will finally help me in my later days. So I think I didn't plan this, it happened. It happened. But I love my job and I'm passionate and I do my job with whole sincerity. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that shows, like, a lot of us students, we are very impatient and we feel that, like you pointed out, you found your calling quite late after trying out a lot of things.
Yes.
And I think we need that patience, and destiny will eventually do its work as it is done in your case. In your case, and you've become a passionate weatherman, and you're proud of it.
I would like to add on. See, he says that he didn't get into medicine or whatever. But I think ultimately, wherever he actually ultimately landed, he has put in his heart and soul, and maximum, I would say, kind of interest and he has reached at the highest pedestal of that organization. So he's the additional director general there. So I think it's...
Ma'am, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. So I think it's only the lesson which should go to school children is that whatever you do it to the best of your potential, put in your hard work, and like Dr. Sharma, you will reach at the highest rung of that organization. And I think he never worked to reach there, but he worked to for his own satisfaction and desire. Am I right, Dr. Sharma?
That and another thing is there was a desire to work for the society.
Yes.
That was more
yes.
important. That was more important, and that brought happiness to me.
Yes, and hard work pays at the end.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Please carry on.
Yes, ma'am. Hard work combined with the nobility of purpose always helps, and sir has shown us that. Okay, moving on, we have up next a question from Vedangi of class 11.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
So while answering one of the questions, you talked about COVID. So would you please elaborate on the impact of this pandemic on our environment as a whole?
Oh yes, I mean, you must have all observed that when like COVID started and there's a lockdown. Because of that lockdown, transport, no industry was on, and naturally your pollution levels drastically came down. And our department, we also monitor the different levels of pollutants. So pollutants, I mean, the air was clean after, I remember, my childhood in Delhi. So Delhi used to be in early 70s, used to be like this during the COVID time. There was hardly any pollution at that time. So definitely it brought changes to the water quality, to the air quality, and even the birds. Birds were enjoying. In fact, nature, first time I saw, earlier we were enjoying and Earth was really suffering. It's the first time I saw myself that Earth was celebrating it. Earth was, entire nature, you could see the nature singing and dancing, that kind of thing. So yes, COVID brought many lessons, especially that means if we reduce the pollution, we are the anthropogenic pollution, we are the ones who are destroying the nature. So it was forcibly brought upon us, but yes, we knew that it is possible. So yes, now we have to see how now onwards we change our lifestyle and dharti pe kam se kam boj bane hum. Normally what happens, you come to the school and you discuss, mere pa itni badi car hai, itni zyada chiye hai, main wahan gayi, main wahan gaya and all. I think we should start giving awards to those students जो कि सबसे ज्यादा thrifty हैं, जो सबसे कम खर्चा करते हैं, उन लोगों का अवार्ड देना चाहिए स्कूल में. So start identifying your school which is a person who is सबसे कम बोझ है धरती के ऊपर. Right? His lifestyle is सबसे simplest lifestyle जिस बच्चे का है, उसको आप इनाम देना शुरू कर दीजिए इस साल से भी, maybe next year से. If we do that kind of encouragement, I think we will change our lifestyle. और कोविड जैसा तो नहीं, मगर उसके आसपास हम पहुंच सकते हैं. This COVID has taught us it is possible and it is definitely required also. Otherwise, कितनी बीमारियां हो रही हैं pollution के कारण, you all know that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
COVID has been a reckoning. It's been a reckoning of sustainability, a reckoning of life, really. And it's really up to us. We have to interpret it and realize what nature is saying to us and sort of work on those signs and symbols. Up next, sir, we have a question from Manvi Verma of class 10.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, there has been a lot of ambiguity about the snowball Earth. So can you please give us a gist of the theory and also throw some light on its significance now?
No, it's very difficult to explain that kind of thing here in a very short period of time. But I feel, that what I'm trying to say here basically is जो हमारे सामने है पहले उसको we try to understand that. We talk about things which are very big concepts or something which is जो हमारे सामने दिखाई देता है उसको तो हम इग्नोर करते हैं, और जो नहीं है या दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है उसकी सब लोग बात करते हैं. So I will not discuss about that. What I am trying to say is that know your nature. अपने आसपास पहले समझने की कोशिश करो, अपने अंदर जाने की कोशिश करो. Inside also very important. Let me tell you again, as spirituality tells, I'll give you the another direction. हम लोग जो है ना, another, yes, one good thing is that you should look around nature में कैसे कैसे changes आ रहे हैं, but at the same time we need to also look inside. हमारे अंदर क्या हो रहा है? So that will bring some kind of steadiness to the mind. Otherwise, mind is such a thing, it jumps from here to there, and once it jumps, you will waste your lots of energy and you cannot concentrate. So start looking inwards. Start having sort of what do you call this? Change your behavior. It will change your behavior. It will give you new direction. It will help you in finding the solutions. So stress more on that. Okay, thank you.
A catharsis is basically what's being hinted at. A catharsis by seeing things around ourselves and by understanding our nature which is around us, rather than going across 7 seas and looking at Europe or America or something like that, which is again something which we need to inculcate and imbibe as students. Up next, sir, we have a question from Arya Anand, who is in class 12.
Greetings, sir. In recent years, we've come across rain rooms, artificial rainfall, cloud seeding, and even weather controlling satellites now. Since you have worked extensively in the field of prevention, precaution, and prediction, so do you feel that there is a need to step back, that we should stop interfering with nature and instead shift our focus from controlling it to working in tandem with it?
You're absolutely right. We are interfering too much, and many countries, I think almost all countries have a plan of artificial rain. Even in 70s, we have an institute called Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology at Pune, who conducted experiment at the time to induce rain, because whenever rains fail, some states want that we should try to induce rain by cloud seeding. So that kind of experiments are going on, but then it's uneconomical and it's very difficult to prove whether this rain has happened because of your experiment or due to natural causes. And similarly, there are many countries, they're also working on like biological warfare, weather wars. That means if you can induce extreme rains, you can lead to flooding and destroy the enemy. So there are many issues, but yes, you are right. We should not interfere. Already too much interference is from our side. People are already started saying, a lot of greenhouse gases like CO2 in the atmosphere. So start capturing it. Carbon capture and storage, and store it where you have taken out the oil or gases, you can store it there. Or some people are also talking about using iron fillings and dumping it in the ocean, which will act as a catalyst, and plants will, their photosynthesis rate will increase and they will capture more CO2. That will less CO2 in the atmosphere, less global warming. So again, but then it will have many other repercussions. People are also thinking about dumping nano silver particles in the atmosphere at a high altitude, which will reflect the radiation, and again, less radiation on the Earth's surface means less of warming. So there are many things which are being planned, many kind of experiments are being planned, but I feel, less interference should be done, because we have not understood that completely, and it can have more dangerous impact somewhere else, which are very difficult to predict.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And Arja sir is actually a classmate of mine, and we are both geography students and humanities students. And I think I know where he's coming from, because we read this concept of neo-Malthusian sort of development, which is talking about a parity between population and resources. So I think what you're hinting at is something along those lines, because bringing about a sustainability by sort of working in tandem with nature, and which is what Arya has asked you, and which is what you have beautifully elucidated upon. Up next, sir, we have a question from Akanksha of class 11.
So, I have a question regarding storms. Storms have been known to wreak havoc, but where do storms get the destructional energy from?
Oh, very good question. Very good question. See, all this water comes from the energy comes from the water, moisture. So whenever there is a change of state, you must have heard latent. Are you a student of science? No. So we call it latent heat. Whenever there is a change of state, right, from like liquid to water vapor or liquid to solid ice, whenever there is a change of state, there is release of energy. So similarly, when there is a liquid gets converted to moisture, energy is released. So all its moisture, that is why most of this, your cyclones, hurricanes develop in the oceans. So they get their energy from the ocean. And by the time when they reach the land, because of friction and because their source of their fuel is moisture. Moisture is cut off. So that is why they weaken and their impact reduces. So it's the moisture which supplies the energy.
Thank you for that explanation, sir. Up next, we have a question from Kevaya of class 12.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just a minute. I think I have another interview lined up here. So I'll take one or two questions only. Okay, yes.
Sir, for the very first time, India ranked 9th on the Climate Change Performance Index. But there still seems to be a lack of sensitization of the public regarding climatic disasters. What do you think would be the most effective measures to sensitize the people about this issue?
Yes, okay, very good. See, what you should do, you should know about your immediate environment. Suppose if you are living near the river, the problem could be of flooding. If you're walking on the road, the problem could be accident. Or you're in a multi-story apartment which is not constructed, which is not earthquake resistant, it can have problem of earthquake related problems. Or if you are your house is near the forest, there could be forest fire. So you should know about your immediate environment, what kind of hazards are there. One is hazard gets converted into disaster. So if you know your hazard, if you know the time, you have the timely warning about the hazard, you know your immediate environment, so you can take timely action and you will prevent that hazard into disaster. So this is very easy. So this is why I always said, whichever environment you are living, learn about your immediate environment. Know your neighborhood. किस तरह का खतरा है आपको आपके आसपास से? आग का खतरा है या पानी का खतरा है या कोई पता ड्रेन ही खुला पड़ा हुआ है, गलती से उसमें गिर जाएगा. So if you take care of these hazards, so you need to they can do survey around your area, which are the hazards which can affect you, and then list those hazards and see what actions you can take to prevent those disasters. तो हम तो यही बोलते हैं, हम तो disaster होने ही नहीं देंगे. We will give you timely warnings, and people, if they listen to those advisories and warnings, disasters can be prevented. Of course, life can be prevented, but जो structures हैं उनको तो prevent नहीं कर सकते. Cyclone आएगा और आपने sea coast पे कुछ बना के रखा है तो it will get destroyed. But yes, we can definitely. So forewarned is forearmed.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, will you be able to take a question more, or should we conclude?
I think that is enough because I have another interview lined up. But okay. Before that, I say up till now, आप लोगों ने Batman और Spider-Man के बारे में सुना होगा. I'm the weatherman, and I hope you must have enjoyed that.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. This was, I think, amazing, and I think most of my student compatriots would resonate with me when I say that this has been a great learning experience, great educative experience for all of us. And the weatherman is definitely a hero for all of us. So may I now call upon Gayatri ma'am to present the vote of thanks.
Ma'am, you're muted.
Gayatri, please come in.
Hello.
Okay, sir. I think ma'am's audio is playing up a bit, so I think I can go forward with the.
Take over.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Sure.
Okay. So, Dr. Sharma, thank you so much. It was an amazing session, and surely you owe us a visit to school when the school building reopens, and take the session on further with children. And trust me, you will be, I mean, there'll be flooding of questions, because I can see there's so much of inquisitiveness. They want to learn and know so much more. And I think the session 2 is due now. But yes, you spent almost, I would say 75, 80 minutes with us. Thank you so much. You have a busy schedule. And I think a lot of our queries were sorted, and we will now become better human beings, better citizens in terms of creating no waste, I would say, not lesser waste, but no waste, and be conscious of our responsibilities towards the nature. Thank you so much. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir.